Hello everyone, welcome to Ellism Reviews The Devil May Cry HD Collection. I never played a Devil May Cry game until about a month ago, but knowing Final Fantasy 15 was going to have gameplay very similar to Devil May Cry 5, I kind of felt like I should play them. So I figured, why not review them too? Keep in mind, this is only my opinion, none of this is fact. Well, maybe for Devil May Cry 2. I have no nostalgia behind my review, seeing as I only just started playing them like a month ago. So, let's get this started. So, Devil May Cry 1, the game that started it all. Now I can see how this is a classic. The game feels better than any other PS2 game from 2001, with combat that set a very early precedent for action games, at least until Devil May Cry 3. The story is serviceable enough, and not so great level design. This is truly a PS2 game. It feels more like a late-gen PS2 game, so it does get points for that. The combat feels very satisfying and creates a very nice skeleton for other games in the series to flesh out. Knocking them up and shooting them, then slamming them down is so satisfying that you almost can't stop doing it. The combat has its flaws, such as its dodging not being very good, and some not so good bosses, but for the most part, the combat is a-okay. Doesn't get that repetitive even by the end. As for the story, it's pretty thin and even a little meh, but the story gets much better once you've played all the way up to Devil May Cry 3, and you learn who Nilo Angelo is and why he was important to it. Mundus isn't a very interesting villain, but this is the first game, so I'll give it a pass. Hold up. A professional here. Doggone it, why is it doing that? Anyways, the level design is truly early PS2 level design, with the platforming being really, really bad, but that's in every Devil May Cry. The camera is fixed in one position, and that can get very annoying. The areas aren't that interesting to look at, and even getting very confusing sometimes. If it weren't for Maximilian Dood's playthrough, I would have been lost so many times. Overall, this game has a lot of variety. Gameplay feels good, but the story does stagger. Voice acting isn't really great either, but I can let that slide given when it came out. The highlight is, I should have been the one to fill your dark soul with light. There you go. But memes aside, I think it could really benefit from a remake. Hey, Bluepoint, get on it. I give this game a 7 out of 10. Just needed a little polish in some areas and maybe a more interesting story. But really gets the gameplay right for a start. So I'm sure they'll fix things in the sequel, right? Right? Oh no. No. Well, they didn't fix anything. Let me preface this review with this. Yes, I know about this game's troubled development cycle, but that doesn't make the game any less of a travesty. So let's just get this part over with. So, the gameplay. Have you tried shooting? This is the best-selling third-person shooter in 2003, I'm pretty sure. The gameplay is awful. It's just shooting, and shooting, and shooting, and shooting. Every time you feel like attacking the boss with your sword, they just do an attack that does tons of damage and makes you have to shoot them. But most are out of range, so you have to shoot. Here, let me show a clip of what is basically this entire game. Now, I know I edited that in a way where you couldn't really see what Dante was doing, but you could hear it, and you could see the beginning and the end, and that health bar not moving. So you see what I mean? Let me go over what I like. Dante's design, Dante's combat animations, and the thing where you shoot multiple enemies at the same time. That's pretty much it. As for the story, I honestly couldn't tell you anything on it. I played this game and I remember nothing from its story. I don't know why anything happens, nor do I remember what happens. This game reminds me too much of Dirge of Cerberus. As for the level design, they drop you in an uninteresting looking area, give you no sense of direction, and then you fight a boss in the end. That's it. Overall, I'd probably give this game about a 3 out of 10, a point for each thing I like. This game is so bad that I can't even laugh at it. Thankfully, it is mercifully short at only around 5 or 6 hours for me. We finally have the game that fixes almost all issues from the first one. We're jumping straight into this. The gameplay is so much more refined than DMC 1 and especially 2. Dante feels fast, strong, and OP, but not too OP as to be invincible. Really enjoyed this gameplay. Having the different styles and weapons makes this gameplay feel very fresh way up until the end. The game still staggers on some of its boss design, and the gameplay still really struggles on something that won't be fixed until the next game, the camera. The camera still being fixed in a position most of the time makes combat beyond frustrating. When enemies can just kinda hop out of frame while you're fighting others and then they just shoot you and you can't even see it. It's just several other games were doing analog camera controls in combat at the time. There was no reason not to do it, and this leads to a lot of frustrating moments. The gameplay problems are more prevalent here than in DMC 1 or 2 because of how much faster the gameplay is, and for that, I'm going to take a whole point off its score. The game's Devil Trigger also feels the worst of these three. It feels useless. I never used it. I maybe used Devil Trigger once, maybe twice, but even then, it was more of to get some health regen and not really to do anything. I beat the whole game and never used Devil Trigger pretty much. The story. This game's story, scroll up my script, this game's story is considerably more interesting with characters that are actually good and villains that aren't completely non-existent. The game's story is a step up from 1 and 2 and is where DMC actually starts to tell a good overarching plot, or overarching, however you pronounce that word. It's not perfect by any means, but it's light years better than 1 and 2. The game does run into the same problem as DMC 1, which is revisiting too many areas halfway through the game. The pacing between a lot of story beats feels very off and has so much annoying nonsense in the levels to take the wind out of them when they do eventually happen. The level design is still Devil May Cry level design and is only a little above average and still has the same problem as Devil May Cry 2, where you feel like you have no real direction in what to do sometimes. Overall, I'd say this game is a massive step in the right direction. I see why it's so highly regarded, but it's not the timeless marvel everyone says it is. This game has aged some, and it shows it in some ways. The game is a solid 8.5 out of 10, maybe just an 8, I don't know. Fun melee combat, fun gunplay, and with a good balance between the two, unlike DMC 1 and 2. Now for the collection as a whole, overall I'd say this is a really good deal. I got DMC 1 through 4 for about $40. It's pretty good, giving three of those 4 are pretty good. I'll have a review for 4 when I finish it, and one for DMC when I finish it. Those will be more in depth than these because they'll only be for one game at the time. Well, that's going to do it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like and subscribe and turn on notifications. I have another video going up next week, along with a Deep Thoughts episode. Let me know your thoughts on these games in the comment section below. I'm going to post my my top 10 favorite games of all time next week, as well as my top 10 favorite games of the generation next week, along with the Deep Thoughts episode. I've gotten a couple new subs. My video got over 100 views, so thank you everyone for that. If you're watching this, thank you for subbing. Yeah. So yeah, that's gonna do it. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Take it easy.